At 61, Johnny Depp finally chose reflection over reaction. Speaking quietly around the time of Cannes, 2023, he did not rage against rumors or demand validation. Instead, he acknowledged a life reshaped by fame, scrutiny, and loss. Once celebrated as Hollywood's most unconventional leading man, Depp had spent years under an unforgiving spotlight that followed him beyond movie screens and into private life. Rather than chase a comeback on familiar terms, he stepped back entirely. This was not retreat, it was recalibration. His absence from Hollywood events, interviews, and red carpets wasn't announced or explained. It simply happened. For an actor whose image once filled billboards worldwide, the silence felt startling. Yet that silence marked the beginning of something deliberate. Depp was no longer trying to correct public perception. He was choosing peace over visibility, and in doing so, began quietly rewriting what his life could look like beyond celebrity. Leaving Hollywood without saying goodbye. In 2023, Johnny Depp made a decisive move that surprised even longtime fans. He left Los Angeles behind. Without ceremony or farewell statements, he relocated to Somerset, England, settling into a rural estate surrounded by open land and distance from industry noise. There were no press photos, no dramatic explanations, only absence. For over a year, Depp avoided major appearances, choosing a slower, grounded routine far removed from Hollywood's relentless pace. When asked by a local paper about his disappearance, he offered a simple explanation. He no longer lived to be noticed, but to be at peace. That quote resonated deeply because it felt unpolished and sincere. Depp wasn't rejecting his past, he was releasing it. By stepping away from the entertainment capital that shaped and strained him, he created space to live without constant judgment. The move signaled not retirement, but a refusal to let fame dictate his identity any longer. Art as a new language. While Depp stepped away from acting, creativity never left him. Instead, it shifted form. Painting became his primary outlet, offering expression without performance. His artwork, often surreal, subdued, and emotionally restrained, quickly drew attention from collectors and galleries. Within months, original pieces sold for millions, while limited edition prints disappeared almost instantly. Yet commercial success was never the point. At exhibitions like A Bunch of Stuff in New York, Depp spoke quietly about art as a way to communicate feelings he could no longer articulate aloud. The paintings reflected solitude, fragmentation, and endurance rather than spectacle. Critics noted a stark contrast between his earlier pop-inspired work and these newer pieces, which leaned heavily into silence and negative space. For Depp, painting was not reinvention, it was refuge. Without scripts, cameras, or expectations, he could create honestly. In this phase of his life, art became less about being seen and more about being understood, even if only by himself. Music. Without the spotlight. Music has always been part of Johnny Depp's identity, but in recent years, it has taken on a quieter role. Performing with Hollywood vampires alongside Alice Cooper and Joe Perry, Depp returned to European stages not as a headline attraction, but as a collaborator. These performances, at festivals like Wacken Open Air and venues across France and Germany, were warmly received, not for spectacle, but sincerity. Depp played guitar, offered backing vocals, and stayed largely in the background. His presence felt grounded rather than performative. In stripped-down sessions and acoustic recordings, his music became softer, almost fragile. During one soundcheck, he remarked that he no longer had anything left to sing loudly about. That honesty defined this chapter. Music was no longer a career move, it was communion. Without chart ambitions or media tours, Depp used music as connection, sharing moments rather than personas. It was another way of existing creatively, without returning to the machinery that once overwhelmed him. Public scrutiny and personal cost. The years leading up to Depp's withdrawal from Hollywood were marked by intense public scrutiny. Highly publicized legal disputes, conflicting narratives, and relentless media coverage reshaped how he was perceived almost overnight. Projects were paused, roles recast, and professional relationships severed before clarity could emerge. For Depp, the experience was deeply isolating. Regardless of outcomes or opinions, the emotional toll was undeniable. He later reflected that the process was never about revenge, but survival. Even after legal proceedings concluded, the impact lingered. Friends describe him as withdrawn, cautious, and emotionally exhausted. While public sentiment shifted over time, trust did not return so easily. The ordeal altered how Depp viewed institutions, fame, and exposure. Victory did not feel like closure. Instead, it marked an ending. By stepping away from interviews and refusing to relive the past publicly, he chose self-preservation. The scars remained, but they no longer dictated his direction. Cannes 2023. A quiet reappearance. Johnny Depp's appearance at the 2023 Cannes Film Festival marked a careful re-entry, not a comeback. Starring as King Louis XV and Jane du Barry, he returned to the screen without fanfare or self-promotion. The 7-minute standing ovation was not just applause for a performance, but recognition of endurance. European audiences, long more forgiving of personal complexity, welcomed him without spectacle. Depp did not address controversies or frame the moment as redemption. He simply let the work speak. Critics offered mixed reviews of the film itself, but largely agreed on one point. Depp's presence remained magnetic, restrained, and emotionally grounded. The role felt symbolic, a monarch nearing the end of relevance, quietly observing a world changing around him. Cannes did not signal a return to Hollywood dominance. Instead, it affirmed that Depp still belonged to cinema on his own terms, without explanations or apologies. Choosing selective returns. Despite claiming he would never return to Hollywood, Depp began considering projects that aligned with his values rather than expectations. Films like Day Drinker, directed by Mark Webb, marked a cautious re-engagement with mainstream cinema. The role was described as introspective and emotionally layered, far from blockbuster heroics. Directors who approached him noted that Depp no longer sought fame or validation, only authenticity. Offers from festivals and studios continued to arrive, but many went unanswered. Even collaborations with longtime allies were weighed carefully. Depp was no longer interested in being defined by roles or franchises. Acting, when he chose it, became another form of expression rather than ambition. This selective approach reflected a man no longer chasing relevance, but meaning. His return was not loud or triumphant, it was intentional. Each project felt less like a revival and more like a conversation between who he was and who he had become. A healthier, quieter life. Away from Hollywood, Depp's daily life transformed. Residents in Somerset describe seeing him walking, reading, and engaging quietly with the local community. He adopted healthier routines, simplified his diet, and stepped away from habits that once fueled negative headlines. According to those close to him, these changes were not imposed by public pressure, but chosen privately. There were no announcements, no image campaigns, only consistency. His demeanor softened. When approached by media, he no longer reacted defensively. When asked about the past, he declined to revisit it. This restraint spoke volumes. Rather than rebuilding an image, Depp rebuilt stability. Doctors noted improvements in his overall health, but more importantly, friends noticed emotional steadiness. For the first time in decades, his life lacked urgency. Fame no longer dictated rhythm. In its place was routine, creativity, and space, small things that collectively reshaped his sense of self, redefining success beyond Hollywood. Despite stepping back from acting, Johnny Depp remained commercially influential. His long-standing partnership with Dior continued to thrive, breaking sales records even without new appearances. Archived footage replaced fresh campaigns, proving his cultural presence endured without constant visibility. Fashion houses welcomed him in Europe as an artist rather than a celebrity. Yet, Depp showed little interest in leveraging this influence further. He declined memoir deals, high-profile interviews, and lucrative brand expansions. For someone once defined by box office numbers, success now meant autonomy. Industry insiders noted that what unsettled Hollywood was not his absence, but his independence. Depp no longer needed validation from studios or awards. By existing outside the system yet remaining relevant, he challenged its assumptions. Influence without participation became his quiet rebellion. In redefining success, Depp demonstrated that legacy does not require constant output. Sometimes it survives through restraint, distance, and the refusal to be consumed by expectation. A life still unfolding. Johnny Depp's story today is not about redemption or revenge. It is about survival, recalibration, and choice. He did not erase the past, nor does he relive it publicly. Instead, he carries it quietly, allowing it to inform but not imprison him. His art, music, and selective acting roles reflect a man who has accepted complexity without explanation. No longer chasing understanding, he no longer fears misunderstanding. Whether he continues acting or retreats further into private creation remains uncertain and perhaps irrelevant. What matters is that his life no longer follows a script written by fame. Depp's journey from global icon to private artist illustrates that transformation does not always arrive loudly. Sometimes it comes through silence, through stepping away, and through choosing peace over applause. His story is not a triumphant return to where he once stood, but a movement forward into something smaller, steadier, and far more personal.